learn and enlighten ourselves. So I'll be welcoming everyone to the call. Our panelists, I see you, distinguished guests, SPE board members, every other person on the call. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We get ready to start the session. The session will begin now. So you're advised to keep all distractions away, get your writing materials ready, and we'll be kicking off now. So we'll be going deep into the topic, the crucial rise of sustainability, the role of technical professionals in the oil and gas industry. So essentially, we are going to be listening to our panelists talk about how sustainability is on the increase now, especially it's been on the lips of every organization and every individual in the oil and gas sector. So how we as technical professionals can adapt, how we can evolve, how we can keep ourselves ready and upskilled to take on these challenges and present ourselves with opportunities in this space. So without wasting any more time, I'll be introducing, I'll start with the safety moments. And my name is Kaito Chukwu. I'm a project engineer with Peso Energy, and it's such a delight to be emceeing this session. So we'll be moving on to the safety moments. And the first thing here is check that your cameras and mics are well muted. This is to avoid any form of distractions so that we can have one person speaking at the time. So if you have any questions, if you have need for any clarity, please use the chat box. We'll be there to answer your questions or there to give response in due time. Then also, if you're using earpiece or earphones, please make sure they're at the recommended volume. This is to prevent any form of ear damage or ear troubles. And if you're driving, please do not use your phones. You can look for somewhere safe to park, and so that you can listen intently to the session as well as take notes where necessary. Then avoid staying in one position for too long. Please endeavor to move around, take screen breaks. So if you need to, move around for a while, take water, stretch your muscles and come back. We are here live with this session. So without wasting any more time, I'll be introducing the panelists, and we're going to be starting with the moderator, Mr. Otome Afiegbe. Sorry for that. Okay, yeah, so Mr. Otome is the Managing Director, Africa Operations for Modern West Advisory Canada, providing advisory services on carbon markets, carbon technology innovation, sustainability, ESG, and GHG accounting to private and public organizations across the region. He's a technical and commercial professional with about 2 decades in the energy industry across various jurisdictions. He has served in various leadership roles across various disciplines, including petroleum engineering, commercial operations, business development, gas portfolio strategy, sustainability, ESG for independent and multinational organizations, including Baker Hughes, Shell, and so on. He is also an advocate of clean cooking for Africa, and he sits on various boards linked to clean energy in Africa. Otome is a registered engineer with COREN and a certified sustainability professional and project manager with GRI and PMI respectively. So can we give a virtual round of applause for Mr. Otome? And Mr. Otome, if you're on the call, please say hi so that we know you're here.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our first panelist is Mrs. Tosin Leye-Odeyemi. She's the head Holdco Risk Capital Management and Sustainability at Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC. She's also a non-executive director on the board of Stanbic IBTC Trustees Limited. She joined the Stanbic IBTC Group December 2002, and over the last 20 years, she has held various leadership roles in the Internal Control Unit, Compliance Unit, Investment Management Division, and Finance Department. Prior to taking on her role in April 2019, she was appointed as the head reward, analytics, and reporting in the People and Culture Department of Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC. Tosin has served as a volunteer in the Logistics Subcommittee of the WIMBIZ Annual Conference in 2022, and in 2023, she served as a member of the WIMBIZ Conference Planning Group. Tosin holds an executive MBA from the prestigious Lagos Business School and is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. Welcome, Ma. Welcome, Ma. Please, if you're on the call, please say hi. And please, can we give a virtual round of applause for Mrs. Tosin?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, good afternoon. Next on our list is Professor Geoffrey ANOLIEFO. He is a distinguished academic and researcher, serves as the president of our Kebulan Society of Environmental Sustainability and chairman of the Board of Trustees at the Faculty of Life Sciences, University of Benin. He holds a BSc and MSc from Alabama State University and a PhD from the University of Benin. His research focuses on ecophysiology, remediation technology, and environmental sustainability, with an emphasis on sacred groves in indigenous conservation. With over 3 decades of experience, Professor ANOLIEFO is a leading expert in his field, dedicated to advancing knowledge and sustainability. You're very much welcome, Prof. Please, if you're on the call, please say hi so we know you're here.
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Right here.
Okay. Okay.
I'm one of your adopted.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, next is Mrs. Priscilla Enwere, who is a highly skilled and value-driven engineer with extensive experience in the oil and gas industry. Over the years, she has demonstrated expertise in asset development, production management and optimization, performance management and control, well integrity management, well interventions, drilling and completions, and operations management. Her proficiency in these areas ensures efficient and effective handling of complex engineering challenges, making her a pivotal asset in any technical team. In addition to her engineering expertise, Priscilla handles risk and change management, business planning, project delivery, and stakeholder management. Her strong commercial acumen and strategic thinking capabilities enable her to navigate and lead complex projects successfully. Beyond her engineering and management skills, Priscilla is also a proficient data scientist. She leverages her ability to analyze and interpret data to support data-driven decision-making, providing innovative solutions to complex business problems. Welcome, Priscilla. Please, can we give a virtual round of applause for her? If you're on the call, please say hi so we know you're here.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Ma. Welcome. Thank you. The last on the list is Engineer Chukwu Emeke. He's a highly experienced senior petroleum engineer with over 18 years of expertise in both offshore and onshore operations, currently working with Platform Petroleum Limited, one of the pioneering marginal field operators in Nigeria. He has a significant role in the industry, having joined the company in 2008 after contributing to Nigeria's first deep offshore project, Abo FPSO. Engineer Emeke is well-versed in the entire energy value chain, including crude oil production processes, evacuation models, and oil well planning and delivery. His excellent man management skills and strategic deployment of human resources have been key to achieving high-level corporate objectives. Throughout his career, Engineer Emeke has demonstrated exceptional leadership, particularly in his role leading the crude oil evacuation team for 13 years. Under his guidance, over 60 million barrels of unspec crude were safely evacuated to both Brass and Focados terminals. Engineer Emeke has an extensive educational background with a bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering from the Petroleum Training Institute, further studies at the University of Port Harcourt, MSc in petroleum engineering, an MBA and mini MBA, culminating a PhD in petroleum economics from the Emerald Energy Institute. Beyond his professional achievements, he is actively involved with SPE Lagos as a board member and student affairs liaison chair. He's dedicated to continuous learning and knowledge acquisition, and this is reflected in his numerous postgraduate qualifications. Welcome, Dr. Chukwu Emeke. If you're on the call, please say hi so we know that you're here.
Hi, Chukwu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And right about now, I'll be handing over to the moderator, Mr. Otome. So please put your questions on the chat box, and also get your pen and papers ready so that we can learn. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Otome.
Thank you, Kaito, for that introduction. And I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar. Today's webinar is quite important and critical because it focuses on technical professionals in the energy industry and their role as we try to build a more environmentally sustainable future. So I'm honored to moderate this session and welcome once again to the esteemed panelists and distinguished guests. If we reflect on Africa, and a lot of us know the numbers, the oil and gas industry has long been a cornerstone for the continent's economy. Africa holds up to 8 to 10% of the world's proven oil and gas reserves and resources. And Nigeria has a huge chunk of those resources, as well as Angola, Algeria, and other countries within Africa that are actually significantly contributing to the global energy supply. So the oil and gas sector is important. That has been established. And it provides jobs. A lot of us are working for the energy industry or have worked for the energy industry. It provides revenue to the country. Over 80% of our foreign revenue comes from oil and gas sales. So it's an important part of our growth as a country, and we need to continue to bridge the energy gap that exists in Africa. However, there is a growing emphasis for environmentally responsible operations and sustainability. And the role of technical professionals have become even more crucial because they bring into bear innovation, they bring into bear expertise, and of course their dedication. So we're talking about the geologists, the reservoir engineers, the petroleum engineers, environmental scientists, and so on and so forth. All the technical specialists are essential to navigating this transition. So when I say transition, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying moving out of oil and gas. No. What I'm referring to is finding a balance that allows us to meet our energy needs today while protecting our planet for future generations. So today's discussion is focused on technical professionals and how they can integrate sustainability into their processes and systems. So what does the future look like basically for technical professionals in this evolving world? So we're going to be looking at some key points. For example, sustainability, like I just defined it, which is meeting our needs today, our energy needs today, and also protecting our planet in the process so that future generations can have these resources. We're going to talk about what Nigeria is doing. Of course, some of us must have heard of the Nigerian carbon market and other things that have, an offshoot basically of commitments that global leaders have made to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So it's no longer optional. Sustainability is here to stay. So how can we fit in? Talked about the energy demand. Indirectly, we're going to experience population growth, and with the trends we're seeing now, we're possibly going to go over by 60% of the current population by 2040. And what that means is we would need more energy. So how do we balance out the need to produce energy and also ensure that we develop our environment in a sustainable fashion? There's carbon emissions and climate change issues. We see flooding, we see different extreme weather events happening in Africa, even though we contribute barely 4% of global emissions. However, the impact is global, and Africa is seeing a lot of climate events. So what can we do to reduce these environmental impacts? So we're going to talk about all this, talk about the need for local content and skill development, the need for innovative technology. Our panel session today will delve into greater details, and we have esteemed panelists who have vast experience and insights to talk about the relevance of all this change, all this transition to technical professionals, and how we can integrate sustainability into their workflows and best practices. So without further ado, let's delve into the discussion. I think it all starts from the cradle, right? All of us who are here today were trained by someone, right? And we all know where it starts from. So I'm not going to keep you guessing. I'll just go straight to Professor Godfrey. Thanks for coming and being present today. I'd like to ask you a question around sustainability. Let's go back to the basics. What is sustainability to you? And how does academia sort of imbibe this in coming professionals that are being trained?
Yes, sir. Sustainability, mundane definition. And when I play on the piano, a note that is bam. So in that wise, what I'm trying to say, sustainability, like you said earlier, but in developing allowance for the future. In 2050, that the Euro country, except the child could, we are talking about Euro country. It's Melissa Seltzer. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Prof. We can.
Thank you very much. So, is our without mortgaging the environment of the future? Look at some fine examples. We have who we want to pull down a whole forest to build a market, to put up a borehole, something that is not good enough. I happen to Ife, University of Ife, which is Obafemi Awolowo University. By the landscape at Ife, Ibadan did the same. And that is where you forest or to the environment. And then you build it. And that's what we're advocating. We like to do any prospecting. If you are doing a transact, please get you through. And the kind of control the heavy equipment, because the equipment, you are compacting the soil on the ecosystem. That is it for the definition. And how will in the professionals in the academia. in two strata. I look at trade in the University of Benin and Uniport. We have in geoscience and petroleum engineering of University of Benin since 2013. So I've been teaching them, and the course I take studies and bioremediation, which is my specialty. We teach those in transition with us in the center here or in Uniport industry as professionals, but they would have been is, and many of them these areas for the first time. They may have taken their general microbiology and physiology, but to go in depth where we define the ecological system, the role of man in the ecosystem, what man is doing, they have done right. These are things we teach them. And like I stressed when I was in Shell, all my 30-something years, I've always advocated for all organisms, because those are what rob Peter to pay Paul. If you want to an eye problem, you do not mix the concoction. Go where you're trying to remediate the soil and bringing chemicals recalcitrant into the environment. And that's not advocated, though I had some problems with them. Quick, I don't blame them. It's a they told me that hours delay, but that's the essence of nature takes its course. You don't rush. And in the bioremediation, we also are professionals. Then in the area, my second is the one I did when I was in SPDC. Professionals already in the oil and gas industry. 2013, I was the focal point for development department. Engineers, hydrogeologists, and geophysicists.
Yeah, Prof. Apparently your audio might not be very clear, maybe because of bandwidth issues. So we'll please just hold that thought if you can hear me, and maybe try to reconnect so your audio is better. But I think we caught a bit of what you said around efforts that the academia is making towards infusing sustainability in the curriculum, which is a very laudable action on the part of the academia, because it all starts from there. Hopefully, I would hear more from you as we go along. But I'd like to switch gears and go to Mrs. Tosin. We have a lot of heavy-duty projects in the oil and gas sector. When I say heavy-duty, I'm talking about capital-intensive to get the oil and gas out of the ground and eventually to the end user. The entire value chain costs quite a lot. And so I would ask a question on that, in terms of what are the key factors that you consider in evaluating sustainability for these sort of investments?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Otome. So evaluating the sustainability of investments for financial institutions And for investors generally, it goes beyond the financial returns. And increasingly, we find ourselves as financial institutions considering a holistic approach, which takes into account the ESG factors, that's the environmental, social, and governance factors. Under the environmental factors, the key things we focus on is we measure the carbon footprint and the emission of the investment that the organization is looking to get financing for. We also look at resource management and climate risk mitigation. Those are the three key things we look at under the environmental factors. And here we look at the measurement of the greenhouse gas emissions, both direct and indirect. And we also look at the measures the organization has put in place to reduce carbon footprint through energy efficiency, renewable energy use, and what carbon offsetting initiatives the organization has put in place. For resource management, we track sustainable use of natural resources such as water, minerals, and we also ensure that there are policies in place and practices for waste management, for recycling, and for reducing pollution. And then under the climate risk mitigation, we assess how the climate change impacts the business and the supply chain and the strategies they put in place to mitigate both the physical risk and the transition risks. Under the social factors, we look at labor practices, we look at community engagement, we look at the OHS. And we also consider diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also product quality and safety. Under this factor, we look at, does the organization have fair labor practices? How are the working conditions like? What are the employee rights? What policies do they have in place? What is the commitment to human rights across the supply chain and in their operations? We then track their contribution to the well-being of the local communities through engagement, through support, what programs they have for community development, education, and health. And then the checklist we also use also tracks the policies, the practices that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within the organization and the initiatives they put in place to support the underrepresented groups and how they have been able to create an inclusive work environment. And finally, on the social factors, we also look at the safety and quality of the products and services and the transparency and ethical practices they have in place, both for their marketing and their customer relations. Finally, under the G, which is the governance factors, we look at the corporate governance and the ethical practices and compliance of the organization. Here we review the structure and effectiveness of the board of directors. We look at their independence, the diversity of the board, and their executive compensation policies. We also make sure that the check includes adhering to ethical standards. What are their anti-corruption policies? What are the mechanisms they have in place? And then we also look at the quality and transparency of their sustainability reporting and their disclosure. And this is where we look at the adopted international reporting standards like the GRI or the SASB standards. They have frameworks in place. All of this checklists that we use to evaluate investments, and this requires us to ensure that we are looking at it from a holistic point of view. And by assessing this, as investors, we identify and support companies that will not only perform well financially, but also contribute positively to the society and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tosin, for that very, I'll say, exhaustive list of requirements. And what that tells me is that once companies are able to scale those hurdles, which are critical for long-term growth, right, the financial institutions happy to support.
Absolutely.
If I'm correct.
Yes, you're
that's what we want to hear, because we need to keep putting in money into these projects to ensure that we sustain energy production. So that's good to know, and that also tells us that we would need professionals, technical professionals, to come up to speed with these requirements, because they would be more or less the backbone for putting together all these requirements and also the strategies and implementing the strategies so that they can access funding. So it's now sort of coming together in terms of how important technical professionals are and the need for them to brace themselves for what is here now. It's not what is coming, it's here now. It's not optional. It's a requirement, like you heard from Tosin. So let's go into operations, oil and gas operations, the bolts and nuts, as they say. I'd like to turn to Priscilla on this. In terms of technology innovation, what is out there for wells, completion exercises, interventions that contribute to more sustainable practices during oil and gas exploration and production? What are those technologies that you've come across? So, Priscilla, you're muted.
My apologies. I didn't realize I was talking to muted mic. Thank you very much. I think that's a very important question. So before I focus the answer on the area of completions, well intervention, I'd like to just highlight that it's good that in our industry today, we are in the forefront, right? And it's technical professionals driving this innovation where we are currently leveraging technology to ensure that operations are optimized, it's efficient and cost saving. And some of the ways that the industry is doing this today, or technical professionals of the industry are driving this today, is by leveraging technology. So today, the industry is leveraging digitalization to use data and manage data better, right? This way, we're able to predict trends, optimize performance, and even predict performance. So with technologies like the Internet of Things, AI, data analytics, big data, right, we're able to predict performance. And you would find this in a lot of the softwares and tools that are being deployed in the industry. In fact, that the use of digital technology is estimated to boost technically recoverable oil by about 5% and reduce costs by about 10 to 20%. The industry, as we speak, is deploying stuff like robotics and automation to enhance safety, as well as increase productivity. And you'll find this being applied very well in the drilling space, right? In the way seismic surveys are conducted today, even in rigs like the drill ship. This has been deployed. Otome, you're also a technical expert. You would also agree to the fact that UAVs or drones are being used today to inspect pipelines, monitor for methane leaks and stuff like that. We have stuff today called digital oil fields, right? It's believed that this is the new frontier for deploying digital technologies in the industry. As a matter of fact, McKinsey and company estimates that digitally enabled drilling, production, even supply chain logistics, optimizing that front and enhancing field operation is estimated to contribute over 250 billion in incremental value to global GDP by 2030, right? The industry is also exploring creative ways to cut GHG emissions, renewable energy. You'll find a lot of companies already exploring green technologies and even investing in them, right? Some companies have gone on to change their name in respect to this. Oil and gas companies are implementing stringent flare reduction initiatives, and ensuring that they cut emissions and methane leaks. CCUS is a thing right now that's being discussed in our industry, where CO2 is captured and stored into geological formations such that they can be converted into several products, right? Something as simple as journey management within the operations space is being optimized as a way of also reducing GHG emissions. And diversification of energy use. So for transportation, for running machineries, for example, using biofuels is to even transport your oil and gas products, right? Now, if I have to bring it home within the completions and well intervention space, right? Today, for offshore operation to better optimize well intervention, riserless light well intervention is being deployed. So what this has done is to help minimize the number of people that you would typically have on an offshore well intervention activity, right? They're improving safety and efficiency, right? Making the operation much more agile and nimble. Within the completion space, there's something called autonomous ICD, or inflow control devices, that have been used to ensure that your reservoir sweep is very efficient, and the technology enables the ability for you to be able to produce oil preferentially while keeping water production back, right? There's completion equipment are now more robust in designs and in the use of materials, to make them more tolerant to solids, and so they can work more efficiently and they can last longer. Downhole tools are now have increased levels of instrumentation, right? Who are able today to do multiple activities in a single run. So, for example, preparation. So activities that would normally be sequential, instead of having to run multiple times, or saving time in doing it at once. So multi-zone single trip completion or perforation, for example. You can perforate your wells in one run. For plug and abandonment, for example, you can set your plug, cut and retrieve your pipe all in one run, right? Again, we have the ability to connect with the surface, telemetry, right? Even though this was previously available only on E-line, today we have it on slickline, on coil tubing. You have real-time capability and sensor instrumentation, right? A lot of the mechanical equipment that are being deployed for well intervention now have this capability. Again, smart completion technology. So these are ways that we have been able to advance technology in order to ensure that our operations are more sustainable and much more efficient. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Lots of information in your comments. One thing that struck me is the need for awareness. There's a lot of information, a lot of technology, innovation out there, but if you don't know it, you can't implement it. And in terms of how technical professionals can really leverage on this, they need to stay abreast. They need to engage and network the right people to sort of ensure that they keep upskilling as we adopt a lot of new technologies that are globally deployed. And that brings me to my next question to Dr. Emeke. You are an industry leader. You are right there at the forefront of operations. Just thinking through what Priscilla has said, with all this technology and all this focus on data-driven operations, so that we use the money that Tosin gives us more efficiently and optimally. What is actually being done? Are these technologies being adopted today in operations? Do you have any examples to show how, operators like yourselves sort of changing the mindset to a more sustainable fashion by adopting technology? Do you have any thoughts around this? So what's actually happening in operations today?
Thank you, Otome. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, like Priscilla rightly said, the oil and gas industry is probably one of the largest consumers of technology, and we rely largely on technology to drive our processes, and of course ensure that investors get a return on their scarce resources they've invested in the business. Right now in operations, the effort is to concentrate on full cycle utilization of energy, more efficient machines and tools utilized to ensure that there's no amount of wastage. Just to drive it home, you also discover that for us to fully utilize our gas assets over time that has been fled, the industry, right as we speak now, is focusing more attention to fully harnessing that gas resources. To be able to do that, of course, you need to innovate. You need to deploy the right means of tools and technology to ensure that the gas assets are fully extracted, and of course, it gets to the market safe in an economic manner. More importantly for us, is also setting up processes such that with each of these processes, you can look at advancing and, of course, replicating each of these successes across the entire value chain. We don't want a situation where after a time, the industry collapses, and you can also see efforts being judged towards raising the next resource in terms of personnel, the effort SPE is putting in terms of technical information dissemination, and of course providing a platform for training, such that even with the right mix of technology, you also have the right skill set within the oil and gas individuals to run with this technology. So there's been a lot of deployment of this technology in our processes, and you just to make it more practical within our client. Even though we have a very challenging environment in terms of the current oil theft, which of course is a major problem for the sustainability group, this scarce resources to pollute our environment. That has crippled a lot of businesses, but then we are thriving. There's a lot of resilience, a lot of commitment to ensure that we navigate this through this very challenging environment. And the only way we can actually succeed is deployment of this technology that was, as rightly put by Priscilla, getting drones to monitor our pipelines, getting leak detection devices to ensure that when these leaks occur, you can identify where it is and then quickly come up with preventive measures to ensure that the environment is not degraded further than it is now. I think that is where I will leave it for now. Probably I can add voice to some other areas as we progress. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Emeke, I think I want to stay with you because I like the points you made around sort of ensuring that the team, the technical professionals behind all of these activities, they are aware of what's happening and they are sort of trained. But typically, I mean, you've managed teams of different sizes. It's very difficult to change behaviors and change cultures, as it were. So what strategies can, upstream companies in the oil and gas space adopt to sort of foster a culture of sustainability? What do you think would be you talked about training. Are there any other strategies you think would really help to embed this culture of sustainability?
Okay, just to lay a foundation to bring in answers to that question is just to call back to mind that our economy, largely globally, is heavily dependent on fossil fuel, even though there's an outcry for transition. And this is because of the return on investment that the energy sector brings to shareholders. Just to remind you also, just last year, Chevron acquired as corporation, a whopping 53 billion was spent in that acquisition, targeting the heavy oil deposits, the large oil deposit in the Guyana region. At the same time, also, just this year, ConocoPhillips, just a few days ago, acquired Marathon Oil. 22.5 billion was spent in that acquisition. And not to be left in the loop, ExxonMobil also acquired Pioneer Natural Resources Company. About 60 billion was acquired in that deal, targeting the unconventional resources. What that tells you is that there's large investment in the energy industry, and to a large extent, it points to us that the fossil fuel will continue to play a major role in our revenue base going forward. But then the issue at hand is that how do we now properly transit? To answer your question, the strategies companies can actually implement to ensure that we are sustainable in our operations is to continue investing in research and development. And this is a loud cry to our industry, especially in Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa. Without the right investment in research and development, we will not get to the point where we can safely transition. And more importantly for me also is that our sustainability goals must be very, very clear. You know, in all metrics, the goals must be pursued aggressively, such that, like Prof said, we must begin to enshrine these goals in our curriculum. You know, bringing some level of advocacy. More importantly, also, we need to also incentivize innovation. Without innovation, we will not get there quickly as we propose to. So governments, and that's why speaking to Afiegbe, the triple helix model, so that there's a combination of efforts from government, from the academia and industry to ensure that the needed innovation, to help bring sustainability to be in our daily operation, is achieved. Having said that, let me allow you to just continue. We'll make some other contributions as we progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Emeke. You highlighted something that we need to really touch on, which is the need for collaboration. It's not just, the onus is not just on one aspect of the value chain to drive this. It is everybody involved. And then also looking back to academia, how technical professionals trained today, are they trained with the mindset that they have to do things in a more optimal fashion, adopting technology? It starts from the cradle, as I'll call it, right? So the curriculum has to be clear. There has to be that linkage with industry. And so if Professor Godfrey was here, I was going to ask him a question. If your interns, for example, come to you after 6 months and say they were involved in sustainability projects or were taken into the sustainability business unit, I hope you give them their full marks, because at least that exposes them to those principles which are key. Like what you said about the growth trajectory of oil and gas globally. So there's always that misconception that this transition means we are stopping oil and gas. And I want to say very clearly here that that's not the intent. It's about how can we do it in a more climate-friendly manner? How can we bring in technologies like Priscilla alluded to ensure that we reduce the carbon footprint as we produce these very vital products which contribute to the energy mix. So thanks a lot, Dr. Emeke, for highlighting those points. I want to go back to Tosin and just find out from her, because she sits in a very vital position. The financial institutions, very critical to ensuring that growth is achieved. So speaking to technology, the financial institutions sort of encourage growth in technology as it, of course, links with sustainability, decarbonization. Is this something that financial institutions support? Because technical professionals these days We see a lot of development in renewable energies, people coming up with different technologies, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but sort of going into that space, cleaner forms of energy. Is there something they can leverage on in terms of financial packages so that those sort of things can be encouraged? What are your thoughts, Tosin?
All right, thanks, Otome. So definitely financial institutions, they are very, very much interested in ensuring that oil and gas companies are innovative. So a critical way they support this conversation is through green financing and investment. So FIs provide green loans and bonds, and they provide it at preferential interest rates or terms, which then are focused on improving energy efficiency, driving innovation, having the oil and gas sector develop renewable energy sources. They also offer sustainability-linked loans, and these are loans with interest rates that are then tied to the oil and gas sustainability performance indices, which then incentivize the oil and gas companies to ensure that they set up KPIs to meet specific environmental targets, and this talks to the R&D aspects as well. FIs can also provide consulting services. This then helps the oil and gas companies develop and implement sustainable practices like the carbon capture and storage technologies. It also helps them to develop renewable energy integration and also improve energy efficiency measures. And this then helps the companies reduce their carbon footprint and then mitigate against even the risk of future carbon pricing regulations. So FIs are definitely invested in this conversation, and a lot of banks are setting up green desks in their corporate banking space to provide this type of support. FIs also provide climate risk assessments and value-added services, and this helps the oil and gas companies to assess and manage their climate-related risks. And they also develop insurance products, actually, to provide cover for this new type of risks, which is associated with the sustainable practices and the green technologies. So the FIs are definitely on board, and they are providing the right financing and also the right consulting services for the oil and gas companies to do more around the R&D and also to drive the innovation conversation in the oil and gas sector. Thank you, Otome.
Thanks, Tosin. Very helpful. And I'm sure you require a lot of technical professionals to sit in those teams. So those are additional. So this whole transition thing is actually creating more jobs in more industries. So going beyond just energy, you need technical professionals to sit in these teams in the FIs to support to drive this cultural change. And that's really, really interesting to see how things are evolving. So skilling is very key. We need to be fit for the future. So the technical professionals out there, please reach out to Tosin on LinkedIn. There might be something there. So it's the future is now. And I'd like to just ask Priscilla, based on the conversation so far, what do you think a petroleum engineer will look like in the future, say in the next 10 years, with all these developments, this embedment of sustainable practices? How do you think a petroleum engineer will be described, in 10 years?
I think 10 years is far. The changes are already happening.
Okay, 5.
They're already happening now. So yeah, petroleum engineers, like all engineers or technical professionals, have a critical role to play. In fact, they're already playing that role, right? In my view, I think that as engineers, we'll be responsible for delivering projects that preserve natural resources And I know that Tosin alluded to this as part of the things that we look out for for financing, right? The projects must support human and natural environments. The role of petroleum engineers will evolve such that we will be responsible for driving innovation, transformation, and adopting those technologies that I already mentioned before, incorporating them into our work processes to ensure that we're able to make decisions faster, make our operations efficient, as well as predict performance so that we can better react. I also think that professionals, petroleum engineers, well engineers, in fact, all engineers, right? If I bring it back to the drilling space, right? Adopting this technology will be critical because if you look at the drilling space, the cost associated with drilling is about 30% of the total cost, right? By being able to adopt some of these technologies, I mentioned automated drilling before, it not only has the potential to increase drilling speed, but you can reduce idle rig time, you can reduce human error, even in moving pipes, something as simple as pipe movement on the rig floor, right? And as such, I see petroleum engineers, well engineers, reservoir engineers, wherever you fall on the value chain, I see us evolving in our skill sets to be able to handle the massive amount of data that comes out daily from our production operations, drilling operations. We have to be able to leverage that data to make our operations much more efficient. We will have to develop skills in areas of technologies that would help to reduce GHG emissions. So sustainability has to be part of us, right? In how we develop in how we design our wells, design our facilities, how are we reducing GHG emissions? Things like carbon capture, Tosin mentioned that not long ago, is taking center stage in the conversations today. We'll be required as petroleum engineers, technical professionals to find creative ways to incorporate the use of cleaner energy resources or sources in our operations. So again, I'm coming back to, for example, yeah, it's oil and gas, but how do we leverage or incorporate the use of renewable energy, right? I mean, if companies today have already started to invest in these technologies, I mean, companies are changing their names, right? To also to position themselves to demonstrate that they're in line with this whole sustainability discussion. Then as engineers, we have no choice. We have no choice but to step up, right? We'll be required to incorporate, again, like I said before, sustainability in our designs, in our approach to operation. So, for example, I'm coming back to oil engineering. In drilling operation in our designs, how are we reducing our footprints, right? If you plan to drill multiple wells, can you drill them from the same consolidated cluster, from the same surface hole? How are you managing your resources? Resource management, like Tosin mentioned, is one of the things that financiers look at in deciding if they want to give or give you any money for certain projects. So resource management is critical. You know, water is one of the biggest contributors to climate change, environmental impact. So waste management is also critical, right? Beyond all of this that I've said, I think that engineers need to be, it doesn't matter where you fall on the value chain, but you need to also understand that you have a role to play in policy formulation. And what I mean by this is, yes, respect regulation, respect the codes, right? But your experience, how do you share your experience to help others improve their performance? That way you can influence policy and legislation through your expertise. And I'm glad that SPE, this platform that we all belong to, provides a very good opportunity for you to be able to do that, to add to contribute to discussions and in the process influence some of these policies that will guide, that would ensure that our industry is much more sustainable. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I think you've nailed it, and Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So thank you so much, panelists, for your insights. I'm sure we've learned quite a lot, and we've established the fact that technical professionals very important in in our sustainable future. They are innovators, they are the problem solvers, they are the folks that are going to lead transformation of this industry. So they have to be fit for the future, they have to upskill. And that expertise they're bringing to the table is essential. We've talked about enhancing productivity. Priscilla said that so many times. But in doing that, ensuring that they reduce the environmental impact. Collaboration is key, knowledge sharing is key to achieve these goals. And with, academia is where it all starts. But that integration of academia, the government, private and public industry players is very important. And we want to see more of this as we go along. Thank you so much, SPE, Private Sector ESG Forum, for this collaboration. I'll hand over to Kato to close us out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Amazing session. I mean, I have my book and pen here, and I jotted a whole lot, especially on the part of us as technical professionals, upskilling, adapting to recent emerging technologies, and also getting well trained in resource management and contributing our own little way in the energy value chain to see that we incorporate sustainability both in our processes, in our systems, and in our structure. So thank you so much to all the panelists. I don't know if there are any questions or if there are any comments, but since we can always drop it on the chat box, our panelists are still on the call and they can answer your questions and give more clarity to whatever you want to see. So thank you so much. And without wasting more time, we'll be going over, we'll be moving on to the photo session. So I'd like to ask everyone to please turn on their videos and so that we can take a picture. So please turn on your videos, show your smiling faces, and so that we can take a picture. Okay, still waiting for more people to turn on their videos, and please smile. Okay. Okay, so it's nice to see everyone's faces. Okay. All right, I'll be taking the pictures now. So can put your best face forward. Yeah, so I'm taking more. Yes. Please smile. Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we'll be going back to taking the vote of thanks, which will be handled by Wogo Ebenezer. Mr. Ebenezer, please, you can take the vote of thanks now.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the 50-something plus people that.
Okay. Mr. Ebenezer, are you on the call? I think he's having network issues, but either ways, I think one thing he's trying to point out is saying thank you to everyone that jumped up on the call. It was a privilege to listen and to learn, particularly, especially in evolving times. So thank you to all the SPE board members around. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone that came in from the Private Sector ESG Forum, from the SPE Lagos Section. We are so grateful, and you can always keep up with our activities online, so you can check LinkedIn out. We put up our activities online. So check on LinkedIn, yes. You can also follow the panelists too on LinkedIn and possibly, ask your questions and leave comments about how you found the session. So thank you so much. Thank you, Private Sector ESG Forum. Thank you, SPE Lagos. Such a great collaboration. And it's my pleasure, and I'm sure everyone's pleasure here, to have listened and learned as much as possible. And I'm sure that this is something that we will not just talk about here, but also incorporate in our day-to-day processes and day-to-day activities back in our organizations. So thank you all for joining in. See you next time. And also thank you to the team that put this together. It surely came out very well. Thank you all. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Give me a minute to acknowledge the PH section, Port section members that are on the call. I see Dorcas, right? So she put a comment in the chat box. So Dorcas, thanks for joining, and everybody else from the PHC section that joined us today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I did not notice that, but yeah, thank you so much.
Abuja section too is in the house.
Oh,
Abuja
wow.
section is in the house.
Okay, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you
to all SPE sections that joined in. It's such a privilege. Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye for now.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Great program. Bye.
Bye.